David White, the poet, writes about a time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. And then he says, there you can be sure you are not beyond love. Today, we're talking about shadow work, the practice of entering the darkness you've been avoiding to find the gold you've been seeking. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. This is for every man who's been performing a false self, exiling parts of himself, carrying shame he's never named. Today, we enter the cave together and we find the gold. Welcome to the Heartsmith podcast. I'm Jason Twombly, and this is where men come to forge courage, train for emotional mastery, and live from both a clear mind and a wild heart. Today's episode is Face the Darkness, Find the Gold, a deep dive into shadow work, the parts of yourself you've been hiding, and the pathway to integration and wholeness. Let's get to the forge. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your unintegrated self, waiting to be seen, waiting to be loved, waiting to be given a new role in your life. Most men that I work with are exhausted from performing from a version of themselves that just isn't real. You've learned to hide the parts that might make you look weak, needy, or broken. You've been taught to rebuke shame, repress rage, deny fear. And to man up, you have to push through, grit your teeth to stay strong. But here's what happens when you exile parts of yourself. See, they don't disappear, they don't go away. They just drive the bus from the back seat, sabotaging your relationships, draining your energy, and just keeping you stuck in patterns you can't break. You rage at your kids and don't know why. You numb out at night and can't stop. You're emotionally unavailable, and your wife doesn't know how to relate to you, and you don't know how to change. You sabotage success right when it's there within your reach. That's that's your shadow. The parts of you that have been exiled, operating in the dark, controlling your life from the shadows. And the only way out is through. The only way to freedom is to enter the cave you've been avoiding. Shadow work isn't some new age woo-woo concept. It's deeply human, deeply psychological, and if you're a Christ follower, it's deeply biblical. Carl Jung, the psychologist who named shadow work, he said this: one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, by making the darkness conscious. In other words, you don't heal by pretending the dark parts don't exist. It doesn't work that way. You heal by bringing light into them. Joseph Campbell, he said it this way: the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The cave, that's your shadow. The parts of yourself you've rejected, the emotions you've been taught that are unacceptable, the shame you carry that no one knows about. It's our secrets that make us sick, says William Paul Young. Here's what shadow work is. It's the practice of identifying the parts of yourself you've hidden, understanding why you've exiled them, and then integrating them back into your whole self, not eliminating them, integrating them, not killing the shame, giving it a new role, not destroying the rage, understanding what boundary it's protecting, not eliminating anxiety. How would it feel to have a part of you eliminated? No, we give it a new role. If you heard my previous episode some months ago, Darkness 101, you know I believe darkness is a teacher. Today, we're doing the homework. We're doing the practice, entering the cave ourselves, mining it for gold. David White wrote, "Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you." Your shadow work is about letting go of everything that's too small for you. The false self, the performance, the armor, the lies you've been believing about who you have to be. And here's the paradox. The gold you're looking for, the peace, the power, the presence you crave, it's buried in the darkness you've been avoiding. Integration, not elimination. That's the work. And wherever you are in this journey, whatever you find in your shadow, you are not beyond love. Let me show you what shadow work looks like, both the cost of avoiding it and the freedom of facing it. Think about Don Draper from Mad Men. If you've seen Mad Men, you'll know that Don is successful ad executive. He's confident. He's that picture of 1960s masculinity. Women want him, men want to be him, but it's all facade. It's all performance. His real name is Dick Whitman, and a man he spent his entire life hiding from. The shame of his real identity drives everything. The drinking, the affairs, the sabotage of every relationship. He performs strength while dying inside with an old fashioned in his hand, or a few of them. And by the final season, the facade is crumbling. He's having panic attacks. His marriage is destroyed. His career is in jeopardy. The false self he built can't hold the weight anymore. And this is what happens when you never do your shadow work. The false self eventually collapses under its own weight. Every man's shadow looks different. Let me tell you about mine. My shadow is all about the shame I carried for most of my life. Shame was this nebulous gray fog that cloaked and drained my energy. I couldn't name it. I couldn't locate it, and I couldn't get rid of it. And my religious background, it didn't help it. They taught me to rebuke shame, to cast it out like a demon, to claim victory over it. All well intentioned, but shame was reframed as the enemy. Shame was sin. Shame was something to destroy. But here's the thing, you can't rebuke an emotion God hardwired into your system. And when you try, you just drive it deeper into the shadows. As an Enneagram 4, I feel everything intensely. Emotions aren't just visitors for me, they're my roommates. And shame, forget about it. Shame was the roommate who never paid rent but controlled the thermostat. The shift came when I learned to distinguish between healthy shame and toxic shame. Healthy shame says, I made a mistake. I need to repair this. And toxic shame says, I am a mistake. There's something fundamentally wrong with me. And so for years, I've been carrying toxic shame, believing I was fundamentally flawed, fundamentally unlovable, fundamentally too much, and not enough at the same time. That's a cocktail for disaster. But shadow work and internal family systems as a real healing modality for all of those parts that are fragmented taught me something radical. What if shame isn't the enemy? What if it's a protector trying to keep me safe? What if shame is just my longing to belong turned inward? Think about it. When you feel shame, what's underneath it? I'm not enough. I'm too much. I'm unlovable. I don't fit. That's not just shame. That's your heart crying out to belong, be accepted, to be seen as worthy. Shame is what happens when that longing gets twisted inward instead of reaching outward. And that's when I started to use what I call the Dawn method. Detect, accept, wonder, and nurture. Detect. Pausing to do this work looks like asking the question, where is where is shame showing up in my body right now? What does it feel like? Detect. And then accept. Hey, this is here. I don't have to fix it or rebuke it. I can just let it let it be. I can let it be here. I can stay in the burn. Wonder. What is the shame trying to protect me from? What is this all about? What does it want me to know? Nurture. What is this part of me? What does this part need from me right now? How can I care for it instead of attacking it? So you want to wonder, what does it want me to know? And then give it nourishment or nurture. What does it need? Let me slow down and do some self-care. How can I equip it, care for it without smashing it and attacking it or eliminating it? And slowly, not instantly, not magically, but slowly. And when I took the time to care for myself, shame got a new role in my life, not as a tormentor anymore, but as a guide, telling me where I've crossed my own values, when I need to repair a relationship, when I'm out of alignment with who I really am. And this is the integration that I'm talking about. If you've seen Pixar's Inside Out, you know the moments when joy finally lets sadness touch those core memories, like those colorful marbles, and everything shifts. The memories they don't become less painful. They become more whole. And that's shadow work. It's not about getting rid of shame or rage or fear. It's about letting them be a part of your story, seen, loved, and given a role that serves you instead of sabotaging you. So for me, it was shame. For you, it might be rage that you've been taught to suppress, or fear you've been told that makes you weak, or grief you've never learned to feel. Whatever emotion you've exiled, that's your shadow work. So how does shadow work actually transform you? Let me break it down. Emotions are intelligence. Dr. Chip Dodd teaches that emotions aren't the problem, our relationship to emotions is. Shame, when honored, leads us to humility. Anger, integrated, gives us boundaries. Sadness, when felt, connects us to what matters. Fear, when understood, gives us wisdom. But when we exile these emotions, when we say, that's not acceptable, that's not manly, that's not me, the truth is they don't disappear because they are what make us human. They just operate in the shadows, controlling us from the dark. Dr. Kurt Thompson, he says, we all come into the world looking for someone looking for us. When that gaze is absent, when that relational joy is void, when when shame is met with more shame, when anger is met with punishment, when fear is met with contempt, we learn to hide those parts. Shadow work is about becoming the witness to yourself that you never had, seeing yourself with compassion, even the parts you've been hiding. And this is my method for working with shadow. Detect, noticing what's happening without harshness or judgment. No condemnation. Name the emotion, feel where it lives in your body. Accept. Welcome what's here without trying to change it. Take a beat and make space for the emotion instead of fighting it and strangling it. Wonder, get curious. What is this emotion protecting? What part of my story is trying to give me wisdom? What does it want me to know? And nurture. Offer yourself what you need: compassion, space, kindness, care, whatever it is. This is what maturity would have us do. This is how you transform your relationship to your shadow. Not by eliminating it, not by crucifying it, not by rebuking it, by integrating it. Now, let me show you what it actually transforms. Here's what I mean by finding gold in the darkness. What is grief turned inside out? For example, if grief is love with nowhere to go, then grief turned inside out is love finally finding its way home. Your shame isn't just shame, it's your longing to belong turned inward. Your rage isn't just rage, it's your boundary that was violated. Your fear isn't just fear, it's your body trying to keep you safe. Shadow work is turning these emotions inside out, not to get rid of them, but to find what they're protecting, what they're pointing toward. Pain is real, but there's a pathway through it. When we do the work, when we detect, accept, wonder, and nurture, pain transforms. Not instantly, not magically, but it transforms. Grief becomes depth. Shame becomes humility. Rage becomes boundaries. Fear becomes wisdom. And you don't do this alone. Alone, pain just circles. Together, with witness and community, pain moves through you and becomes power. Here's what I've learned through internal family systems. We're not one monolithic self. We have parts, many parts to us. There's a part of you that feels shame, a part that rages, a part that numbs, a part that performs. And when you exile those parts into the basement of your life that you never visit, when you say things like, that's not me, I'm not like that, I don't do feelings, they don't disappear. They just drive the bus from the back seat, crashing your relationships and sabotaging your peace. Whether you're aware or unaware, this is the beginning to self-awareness. Shadow work is about integration, not elimination. You don't kill the part that feels shame, you give it a new role. You don't destroy the part that rages. You understand what it's protecting. Brennan Manning, he said it this way: to live by grace means to acknowledge my whole life story, the light side and the dark side. In admitting my shadow side, I learn who I am and what God's grace means. All right, we've talked about shadow work, what it is, why it matters, how it transforms. I want to invite you to practice it together. So grab your journal if you have one. If not, just listen. You can come back and write later. I'm going to give you four prompts. After each one, I'll pause for 10 or 15 seconds, but feel free to pause the episode longer if you need more time to write, and likely you will. Prompt number one. You ready? Really, pause this and go grab a journal, men journal. You can do this. Identify your shadow. What emotion have I been taught is unacceptable for men to feel? What part of myself have I been hiding from others? If I could never be judged for it, what would I finally admit about myself? Prompt two, the cost. What does it cost me to keep this hidden? How has avoiding this shadow affected my relationships? Where do I sense or feel the shadow in my body right now? Prompt three, the cave. When I am, or what am I most afraid will happen if I face this? What am I most afraid will happen if I face this? What treasure might be buried in this darkness? If this shadow could speak without shame, what would it say? Prompt four, integration. What if this shadow isn't my enemy? What could its new role be? What would it feel like to accept this part of myself? What would I need to believe about myself to integrate this shadow? Take a deep breath. You just entered the cave. You named what's been hidden and you asked what it's protecting. You don't have to fix this today. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to see it, acknowledge it, and begin the process of integration. That's the work, and you just did it. It requires a tremendous amount of courage to descend into the abyss of the heart, says the poets. There's no one like Christ who can go down into the underworld and come back with treasure. Shadow work isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice, a daily choice to see yourself with compassion, to integrate instead of to exile, to mine the darkness for gold. You'll walk through this process again and again at different levels with different shadows in different seasons of life. But here's what changes. The more you do this work, the less afraid you become of your own darkness. The more you integrate your shadow, the more whole you become. The more you see yourself with compassion, the more you can see others that way too. This is how you become a man who can hold space for others in pain because you've learned to hold that space for yourself. And you don't do this alone. Community, witness, brotherhood, these aren't optional, they're essential. And if you did the journaling practice today, that's brave work. If you're realizing you need more support for this journey, that's wisdom, not weakness. Remember David White's words. There, you can be sure you are not beyond love. Men, we don't need to be afraid of the darkness because the light of the world has eclipsed the dark night of the soul, and he lives inside of us. Whatever you found in your shadow today, you are not beyond love. Whatever shame you're carrying, you are not beyond love. Whatever rage, whatever fear, whatever grief you've been hiding, you are not. You are not beyond love. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And that treasure is you, your whole self, integrated, seen, and loved. This is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Face the darkness, find the gold. You're not alone in this. Keep forging. If this episode stirred something in you, share it with another man who needs permission to face his shadow. And join us at the Heartsmith Coach on Substack, where we're going deeper into shadow work with practices each and every written entry. There's also a link there to catch up with the podcast or wherever your listening platform is. Looks like the next session we'll be talking about the courage to be known, the courage to be known, why vulnerability is power, how to let yourself be seen, and the practice of authentic intimacy in brotherhood. And if today's episode stirred something in you, if you're realizing that this shadow work isn't something that you can't do alone, if you need witness and community and brotherhood for this journey, the open heart journey is starting in January. 12 weeks where men stop hiding in their caves and start mining them for gold. where we do this work together with witness, with accountability, with brotherhood. This is where shame gets metabolized, where pain gets processed, where shadows get integrated. Check out the show notes for the next discovery call where you can book a spot. Some spots are still open. This is for men who are done performing and who are ready to become whole. Until then, enter the cave, face the shadow, find the gold. This has been the Heartsmith podcast. Shape the heart, forge the man. I'm Jason Twombly, and I'll see you in the forge.